Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone. Today I am very excited to bring you a review for the brand new Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise Skywarp and Thundercracker 2-pack. This set is a Target exclusive here in the States and is just now starting to find its ways out to Target shelves, and I was fortunate enough to be able to pick one up today. Thundercracker and Skywarp are naturally redecos, and in Skywarp's case, minor retool of the Earthrise Starscream mold. Because, as you know, whenever there's a Starscream, at least one of these guys is sure to follow. The 2-pack retails for $60, which is the cost of 2 Voyager class toys, so it's a fair enough deal. You know, no discount, no markup, just straight value. And this box set has a bit of a sub-branding, you can see here, Cybertronian villains, which is interesting because Target has actually used that sub-branding for exclusives before. However, it was part of the Transformers Cyberverse toy line. So it's interesting to see that bit of cross-pollination there between two very different franchises within the greater Transformers brand. So anyway, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this is going to go. We're going to take a look at Skywarp and Thundercracker in their packaging. Then we'll open it up. In this case, we'll get a look at the universal map piece that these do include, and then we'll see the characters themselves in both their vehicle and robot modes. I'll be doing some group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So these guys are packaged in a unique special box, which is a little bit bigger than 2 Voyager boxes put together. And you can see them just on full display here on the front, Thundercracker on the left, Skywarp on the right. And Thundercracker is a straight redeco of Starscream, whereas Skywarp has a new face, has a bit of a screen going on there. Now, funnily enough, this new head for Skywarp was actually accidentally revealed before this 2-pack itself was, and that is because somebody actually obtained a Starscream toy that had a factory error that included this version of the head mold, and that led to some rampant speculation. A lot of people thought that that was going to be some sort of a Coronation Starscream or like Death Starscream from the Transformers movie, which, coupled with a kind of enigmatic tweet that dropped right around the same time from Hasbro, which was specifically talking about the Starscream Coronation and Death scene, a lot of people, put 2 and 2 together and figured that's what we were getting. And now that could still happen. That could be the whole reason behind this retooling, because honestly, to give Skywarp a screaming face like that is kind of odd, because the guy's not really known for being very fearful or excitable. He's usually just kind of the grumpy bully type. If anything, it'd probably go better on Thundercracker. But there's this pattern of them using the wrong faces for the wrong seekers. They did the same thing in Siege, where they gave Thundercracker a sly smirk and gave Starscream just like a really serious face. So I don't know what's going on there. All right, you back it up. You can vaguely make out the universe map piece here in the back, and we'll take a closer look at that soon. The official name of the set is Skywarp and Thundercracker in that order. They are considered Earthrise number 29. Over here, you can see, slide that back, the artwork for these two. And it's just them in their jet modes, and they seem to be attacking Autobots and raining fire. You can see the arc in the background, and now interestingly, this scene appears to be on Earth. Seems to be where the Ark crashed into Mount St. Helens, which is kind of inconsistent with other toys artwork. Like Astro Trains was very clearly on an alien world. So who even knows what's going on with Earthrise? It's on Earth or it's in space. I don't know. I guess we won't really find out until either the comics or the Netflix show catches up to that chapter. Now, one thing I do find funny is that these drawings are very, very toy accurate, right down to like the gaping hole on the underside of the planes there. Just interesting. I feel like a little bit of artistic license would have been okay in that case. All right, on the back, you have the renders for our guys. Obviously, they both take 30 steps to transform because they're the same mold. And their renders, or at least the robot mode renders, are unique between them. The jets might just be the same thing flipped around, I'm not sure. So it does give them some personality. They didn't just recolor the Starscream render, which is nice. And then here, it's just usual Earthrise artwork. So All right, take a look at the very cool packaging. Now let's go ahead and open these guys up. Okay, here's the map piece from inside the packaging. And one thing I noticed with this is that the cardboard that's used for the backing that this comes on is much thicker than the usual cardboard used for these Earthrise toys. And as such, makes this much more difficult to cut cleanly. You can see the lines are a little bit sloppier than they normally are. So just be careful with that. I guess on the plus side, it means this thing's less likely to start curling up once you cut it, which is an issue I've had with other pieces. I have to press them down under a book or something for a while to fix it. Now, this map piece is mostly blank, as you can see. Not a whole lot going on. A little bit of red here, and it's just kind of like a border or design. Up here you have the corner of what I believe is Junkion or Quintessa. Not really sure. Have to get a better look at it. So this looks like it connects to the current map pieces that are out so far, so that's good. Not out there by itself. But yeah, it is mostly empty space, so that's kind of disappointing. There's just not much to look at. Here's the instruction book. And you've just got these little renders of Skywarp and Thundercracker on the front. Very thin paper. It's odd. It feels thinner than normal. It's not a sign of things to come. And then here you have what appears to be Thundercracker because of the closed mouth. And his transformation from robot to jet mode. And then they don't do it again for Skywarp because it's the same thing. And here in the corner, just advertising the whole map feature. All right, and here are our guys in their F-15 fighter jet modes. And one thing I want to point out, when I did the review for Starscream, I kept calling him an F-22, and no shortage of people pointed that out to me. Don't know why I did. I was probably just thinking of his movie incarnation, but yeah, these are F-15s, not F-22s. Stupid me. So you can see mold-wise, these two are exactly the same. Even their color layouts are more or less identical, at least in this mode. And they're both very nice looking. I dig the blue on Thundercracker. Makes him look like some sort of an Air Force jet. Black on Skywarp, while not realistic, makes him look very sleek. Some kind of stealth jet or something. And overall, you know, if you've seen the Starscream jet, you've seen these. A whole bunch of kibble on the bottom, but at least it's kind of dense and compact. And they got their little null ray blasters, which are different from the Siege versions, and you'll see that here in a moment. And just overall, they make for pretty convincing jets. No landing gear, which is an issue I have with this mold and the Classics mold that it's derived from. Why they couldn't tool in some landing gear somehow, I don't know, but they just opted not to do that. Now, some odd things I noticed with Thundercracker. For one, these hinges here are made of a slightly lighter shade of blue plastic than the rest of him. I don't know why. It might be a different material for structural integrity's sake. Then my copy has this mark here, which appears to be some kind of like scraping or something, so must have happened in the factory. It's unfortunate. It's like damage on the toy, but not enough to bother me to the point of wanting to return it. Skywarp seems to be fine though. You know what? His hinges are a different color too, so they've got to be using a different type of plastic for these hinges. It's not uncommon for parts that are prone to breakage and stuff. All right, let's bring in old Starscream. And here's the trio reunited yet again. And it's nice. You know, a lot of people call the newer generations lines, G1 with knees. It's basically just rehashing the original designs, but with better engineering and articulation. And some people say that in a derogatory term. Some people love that. Personally, I love it for what it is. I like getting updates to these classic designs, but I also understand the desire for people to want something that isn't just G1 all the time. And, you know, I'm kind of part of that group. Love to see some Generations era Beast Wars stuff. I've only gotten a couple of those sprinkled in over the years. So one thing I notice while looking at these is that the plastic layouts for all three of these guys are exactly the same, which isn't usually the case. Typically Starscream has a more varied color scheme than the other two. And what it seems they've done here is, you know, obviously they're different colors, but the plastics mixed up the exact same way, and then any other differences just comes down to paint applications. So that is interesting to see. Here is classic Skywarp, just so I can showcase how similar these new molds are to the original design, or the classics design anyway. Now, he's got some pretty big color differences between him and the new one. For one, he's got the colored nose cone there. Much different patterns on the top. And the purple is a much more pinkish shade of purple. And this is, the Hasbro Classics one. The Takara Hente one was a bit better. And yeah, overall you can see the similarities and how everything transforms. One thing I didn't really like about the Classic Seekers is because they wanted to include a missile launching gimmick, they have these massive null ray cannons that just look really silly and really hinder the robot mode articulation. And then finally, we have the Siege versions of Thundercracker and Skywarp. Obviously very different vehicle modes. These use the old Tetrajet design from the first episode of the Transformers. Now, one thing that's worth pointing out is that the Thundercrackers seem to use very, very close, if not exactly the same blue plastic color between them. You can see it's pretty much spot on there. Whereas the Skywarps are actually quite different. The Siege Skywarp was done up in a mostly a very dark, like charcoal color, as opposed to this jet black. And the shades of purple seem to be a bit different too. Seem to be a little bit lighter on the Siege one. Though I think the cockpits are the same orange color, so that's nice. It's nice to see some consistency across their different forms that they've taken, over their timelines. And it's not crazy to think that Skywarp would have just darkened his color palette a little bit. And as much as I liked the charcoal thing on the Siege Skywarp, and I felt that helped him pop a little better against a mostly dark backdrop that was Siege, I think in the Earthrise case, the jet black's a better way to go. It just makes for a much sleeker looking jet. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and transform these guys. If you want to see how the transformation's done, you can go ahead and do that on the Earthrise Starscream review that I did. Otherwise, I'll see you all in a moment. And here are the robot modes. And again, no surprises if you've seen Starscream already. They have a much boxier physique than the Siege toys do, which again is owed to them borrowing from the Classic Seeker design. Of course, they have some massive improvements over that design. They have much more articulation. They got full waist articulation with this little skirt bit that lifts up. Thigh swivel, single bend knees, got the ankle rock. Great shoulder articulation, bicep swivel, all that. Heads are on a nice loose ball joint. When I say loose, I don't mean floppy. I mean they can actually move around a lot. Got some bright red paint operations for the eyes, so that's nice. And then also their wings can fold back, unlike the Classics toys, so it gives them much greater range of motion. Compared to the Siege toys, these guys are missing two key bits of articulation. One is a wrist swivel, they lack that, and then the other is a waist swivel. And the designers did talk about that when they revealed Starscream. They said they tried to do it, but they just could not make it work with the transformation, so it was sacrificed. However, in my opinion, the articulation that's there is more than sufficient. For me, as long as the arms and legs are good, they can pivot their ankles, heads can turn around, that's usually checks all the boxes for me. So I think these guys look great together. There's a pretty stark contrast between them. Thundercracker is done up in a light blue color, which you may or may not know is actually closer to his cartoon coloration rather than the original toy. The original toy was a much darker blue, and I don't have that one to show you, otherwise I would. Skywarp, however, is pretty much spot on, a little bit lighter purple than the original toy. And one thing people pointed out, and actually it's worth noting here because I kind of have to correct myself, I said that their plastic layouts were the same, and that's not true. You see, Skywarp has purple shoulders as opposed to them being the same color as his biceps like Thundercrackers are. And that was also done in the name of cartoon accuracy. You'll see that his Siege counterpart doesn't have that. So it's interesting. The faces, again, take a close look at them. Thundercracker, if I can get this to focus, it's the exact same face as Starscream. Whereas Skywarp, it looks like he is about to die, which again leads many to believe that some sort of coronation or death scene Starscream is on the way. Maybe it'll be like a Comic-Con exclusive or something. Here's a classic Skywarp again, just so you can see how these compare in the robot modes. And again, you can see where the inspiration comes from, but I think in almost every way, the new version does it better. You know, much more proportional null rays, obviously the better articulation. They have a less clown-like feet, though I know some people have said that this is actually more accurate, which maybe, but it looks silly. Can actually sweep his wings back so he can bring his arms back, unlike this guy. I mean, this is as far back as they go. And I like the fact that the nose cone, while still unfortunately hanging off his back, is placed lower than it is on the Classics toy. You can see how high up it goes on this guy, which kind of ruins the silhouette a bit. So yeah, I think it's definitely an overall improvement, and especially in Skywarp's case, because you get to trade out this like magenta color for an actual purple. Here we have their not so fearless leader again. So you can see the three of them together. And it seems, despite the exception of Skywarp shoulders, that yeah, they do use the same plastic layout overall. So oddly enough, it's Skywarp that ends up being unique instead of Starscream this time around. So who knew? Who knew? My Starscream, as you can see, is missing a little spot of paint there on his pelvic area, and it came that way. Luckily, neither of these two seem to have any issues, though, something I forgot to point out, Skywarp here has some paint spatter on his cockpit. A little bit of black paint. Now, may be able to remove that. We'll see. I don't know if it's worth the hassle and potential damage to the toy. Doesn't bother me that much, but just be aware it could happen to your copy. And here are the Siege versions again. And it becomes obvious here that the Siege Seekers are much more sleekly designed. They're, dare I say, the sleeker Seekers. You'd have to pay for that gem. That one's on the house. But anyway, again, very different takes on the designs as far as, you know, the engineering and all that. But you can instantly look at either version of these characters and see, know who's who. And that's, I think, the point of it all. Now, a lot of people were really put off by the fact that we were getting Earthrise Seekers right after we got Siege. I initially felt that way too. I just felt like, really, do we need these guys again? However, these toys are different enough to where it doesn't feel too samey. And some people say like, oh, well, now the Earthrise toys kind of negate the need for the Siege versions, or, negate their existence in their collection. Well, if you are a collector that only wants like one of each character, then yeah, maybe, if you want something more accurate to the originals. To me, they don't negate it because they just give you two separate things. The Earthrise toys give you your quintessential G1 Seekers at a retail price point, not something that's $100 and something more. Whereas the Siege versions give you, that one-off version of the characters that existed only in the first episode of the original cartoon. And it's something that people have been clamoring for a long time. People have been asking for Tetrajets for as long as I can remember. And it's funny that when they got that, they didn't seem all that grateful. It's funny how fandom works, right? So I think it's fine. I think there's no issue for me to have Earth-based Seekers and Cybertronian Seekers. It's just more fun. Now, as far as my final thoughts on the Earthrise, Thundercracker, and Skywarp, yeah, I basically feel the same way about them that I do about the Earthrise Starscream. Initially, when the mold was revealed, I didn't like it, just from footage and renders and all that. It really bugged me. It kind of seemed like a brick. When I finally got the Starscream in hand, though, I actually fell in love with it. I realized it was a great, great figure. So by extension, these two are also great figures. They're done up in just really, really well done paint jobs. The colors are just dead on to what they're going for. If you wanted a dark blue Thundercracker, unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to be the direction Hasbro is going right now, because War for Cybertron Trilogy has really pushed the cartoon accuracy a little more than maybe they used to. Luckily, though, that doesn't seem to be at the expense of like detailing and all that, so that's good. They're not going like the masterpiece route right now where they're just like, hey, flat surfaces because the cartoon had flat surfaces. I'm like, oh, well, that's boring. But you know, I think it's a healthy mix, right? It's recognizable versions of the characters, but with more mature detailing, which I think is great. And these guys, while not as greebly as their Siege counterparts, still have plenty of molded detail on them. So I would say pick them up. They're going to be a little hard to find right at first because they're just hitting shelves and everyone's going to want them. And the scalpers are going to be prowling and they're going to put them up on eBay for $100. Do yourself a favor. Don't buy from scalpers, because if you keep feeding them, they're going to keep doing it and thus make it harder for you to collect and for everyone else. So a little personal PSA there. Just wait it out. These should saturate after not too long. The Rainmakers did. And I know Target's are getting a lot of restock right now for Father's Day. In fact, some are getting like Father's Day end caps with a whole bunch of Transformers and stuff on them. So, you know, I would just wait it out, be patient, and then pick them up when you can get them. You know, it's $60, so you're not paying extra. Also, there is the option of ordering it from Target's website if you don't feel like hunting them down, which right now they haven't come in stock, but I imagine it'll happen pretty soon. So yeah, that's how I feel about these. I think they're great. I think that if you're collecting Generations, these are the guys for you. They're really just, I mean, the vivid colors on them, may not be able to show it off too well on the camera, but just sitting here looking at them, they're beautiful. Anywho, that is of course only how I feel. What really matters is what you all think of these. Are you eager to add them to your collection, or do you not like the molds? Or are you happy with your Siege ones if you have that? Are you happy? Some people are happy with their Classics ones still, so I mean, more power to them. You know, I'd love to know what you all think in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the new Earthrise, Skywarp, and Thundercracker 2-pack. And with all that said, I will see you next time.